Today on Inquirer.
We don't have the next move. That is the extent of our involvement with the ICC. That ends all our involvement with the ICC.
Philippines ends involvement with the International Criminal Court after it rejected the government's appeal to suspend the drug war probe, according to President Bongbong Marcos. Negros Oriental Congressman Arnolfo Teves already considered a fugitive, according to Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla. Finance Secretary Benjamin Jokno says President Bongbong Marcos approved the planned merger of Development Bank of the Philippines with Land Bank of the Philippines. And 9 of 10 Filipinos agree with optional use of face masks despite the continuing threat of COVID-19. Good evening. President Bongbong Marcos says the Philippines will end its involvement with the International Criminal Court after it rejected the government's appeal to suspend the drug war probe. Zakarian Sarao fills us in with the details live. Zach?
Yes, Neil. President Bongbong Marcos said this is basically the Philippines' final appeal to the ICC, with the government now, quote-unquote, essentially disengaging from any contact and communication with the court. Marcos then reiterated that the Philippine government will not cooperate with the ICC probe, citing quote-unquote very serious questions in the court's jurisdiction, interference, and quote-unquote attacks on the sovereignty of the republic.
We don't have the next move. That is the extent of our involvement with the ICC. That ends all our involvement with the ICC. Kasi hindi na tayo pwedeng mag-appeal. The appeal has failed. And there's, in our view, there's nothing left, there's nothing more that we can do than the government. And so, at this point, we essentially are disengaging from any contact, from any communication, I guess, with the ICC.
Just 2 weeks after the Office of the Solicitor General asked to suspend and reverse the ruling that authorized the reopening of the investigation by the ICC prosecutor, the ICC Appeals Chamber on Monday rejected the Philippine government's formal request. The ICC cited the OSG's failure to back its claims that the court's investigation would result in consequences that could not be corrected. Meanwhile, Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla merely wished the ICC good luck with its probe, saying that it lacks the authority to take any action. According to Remulla, the ICC has to come up with a compulsory process before it could even proceed with its probe. Remulla further added that because the country is not a part of the ICC's jurisdiction, it cannot compel the Philippine government to act in any manner. Remulla even challenged the ICC to arrest Russian President Vladimir Putin first to show what they can do, accusing them of merely, quote-unquote, talking big. Back to you, Neil.
Zach, so here are the facts on the table. Number 1, the ICC will continue its probe. Number 2, the Philippines will essentially not cooperate. These two things basically don't align with each other. So do we know how the ICC will continue given these circumstances?
Well, Neil, for starters, victims of the drug war or their families may still cooperate with the ICC. What comes next would depend on the findings of the court. According to the ICC, after gathering evidence and identifying a suspect, the prosecution will request ICC judges to either issue an arrest warrant or summon the suspect to appear before the court. In such cases, the ICC relies on the country's own force to conduct arrests and transfers to the ICC, unless the suspect chooses to appear before the country voluntarily. Should the suspect appear before the ICC, the investigation will then proceed to the pre-trial stage, then the trial itself, the appeal stage, and the enforcement of the sentence. But Neil, there are a lot of variables that need to be taken into account, and it's difficult to conclusively predict the investigation's outcome and consequences.
Because I remember President Rodrigo Duterte specifically saying that he's willing to cooperate if he will face the local courts, but not the international courts. So that's something that we have to follow, and we'll see how this unfolds moving forward. That's Zakarian Sarao reporting live. Despite the absence of an arrest warrant, Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla says that Representative Arnie Teves is already considered a fugitive for being suspected of committing a crime. This is in response to the claim of Teves' legal counsel that the lawmaker is not a fugitive since the government has yet to issue an arrest warrant against him. In a media interview, Remulla says being suspected of having committed a crime already considers him a fugitive, adding that Teves is not showing up to face allegations. When asked why an arrest warrant has to be issued against Teves, Remulla says that it is because of due process. It can be recalled that Remulla said that Teves is being considered as one of the masterminds in the killing of Governor Roel de Gamo and 8 others. Several criminal complaints have also been filed against Teves, including multiple murder complaints over killings in 2019 and the illegal possession of firearms and explosives. Despite being urged to come back to the Philippines, Teves insists that he would only return to the country once the safety of his life and his family had been ensured. Finance Secretary Benjamin Jokno says President Bongbong Marcos approved the planned merger of Development Bank of the Philippines with the Land Bank of the Philippines. In a palace briefing, Jokno says the president expressed the desire to merge DBP and the Land Bank to, quote, make it the biggest bank in the country. However, he says the president had expressed concern about the merger process, saying that none of the services of the two banks should be lost.
We assured him that with the merger, because both the Land Bank and DBP are universal banks, they do almost the same, right? Except that one is focused on agri, the other one on industrial projects. But they do practically the same, and that as a result of the merger, there will be savings, and the merged bank will be stronger. And in fact, one likely outcome of this is that maybe the interest rate that they will charge will be lower.
Jokno says the government planned to put up land bank branches in all local government units in the country, while only 22 out of the 147 branches of DBP would be retained.
The projected operating cost savings due to the merger could reach at least 5.3 billion per year. So for the next 4 years, at least 20 billion, okay? And this is even understated because this does not include revenues that can be derived from the sale of redundant assets of DBP's various properties, such as its head office in Makati, a property in BGC, various branch properties, equipment, and licenses.
Next on Inquirer today, government eyes reforms in military personnel's pension to avoid fiscal collapse. 9 of 10 Filipinos agree with the optional use of face masks despite the continuing threat of COVID-19. And the Philippine National Railways to suspend operations on Holy Week. This is Inquirer Today. We'll be back shortly.
Dash cam footage captured the near-death experience of the driver and passengers of this vehicle.
Hala, hala, hala! Kuya, atras! Kuya, atras! Kuya!
According to the driver of the vehicle, the landslide happened on March 26, while they were passing through Kingoog City, Claveria Villanueva Road in Misamis Oriental.
I am Mr. Dante Salang, currently working in a retail company based in Cebu City. Galing po kaming barangay Sibulig, this is part of Kingoog City. Doon kami nag-overnight. On the following day, we're about to go home na in Kingoog City together with my friend's wife. Tapos, pagdating namin sa Sitio Palapay in Kingoog City, kita namin yung mga debris, falling debris, mga maliliit na bato na nakukulog doon. Tapos akala namin it's okay lang. Tapos mamaya-maya konti nagsitakbuhan na yung mga tao doon. Tapos biglang gumuho na yung malakas na landslide, malaking bato, maraming lupa galing sa bundok.
Hala, hala, hala! Kuya, atras! Kuya, atras! Kuya!
Tapos huminto ako kaagad. And then hindi ako nakapag change gear kasi kailangan ko pang huminto at saka natulala din ako during that time. Hindi mag-sink in pa sa mind ko na ano yung nangyayari. Nasa harapan ko na pala yung landslide. So ayun, nakikita ko bumagsak yung lupa sa itaas. Then ayun, umatras kami. Yung kasama ko nagsisigaw siya na, "Kuya, atras na tayo, atras na." Kasi natatakot siya baka yung landslide darating din sa amin. It was also in my mind na baka magka-landslide din doon sa lugar na doon kami. Pero gladly, I was thankful si God is helping us, protecting us from danger, no? Yung lupa is doon lang sa ng sasakyan ko na sa front lang yung mga bato at saka lupa. Hindi tumama siya pero konti, pero hindi naman siya masyado na damage yung sasakyan ko doon sa harapan.
A house was crushed by the landslide. But no one was hurt in the incident.
So far, wala namang nasaktan sa nabalitaan ko, walang nasaktan. Safe naman yung mag-ina, saka yung mga bata. Nakausap naman namin kasi before kami umalis, nakipagpintuhan kami sa yung nandoon. Walang bahay lang, nakikita ko na was out talaga siya. Pero according to the report, wala namang tao pala doon kasi nagsisimba sila. Sunday kasi yun. Safe naman lahat yung nakausap ko doon.
The road was temporarily closed for a clearing operation due to the landslide and was reopened the day after.
Wala akong masabi during that time. Tulala ako pagdating namin doon sa bahay doon sa itaas, yung kasama ko na trauma na umiyak yung kasama ko. Yung kamay at saka yung tuhod ko nanginginig pa until now.
The government wants to reform the military uniformed personnel pension system to avoid a fiscal collapse, according to Finance Secretary Benjamin Jokno. The proposed reforms include receipt of pension by 57 years old, mandatory contributions for active personnel and new entrants, removal of automatic indexation of pension to the salary of active personnel of similar rank, and application of reform to all active personnel and new entrants. Jokno says the reforms are being pushed to avoid fiscal collapse.
Right now, the situation is so bleak. So there will come a time when the current budget will only be about one third or 1/4 of the money that we're paying for the pensioners. Okay, so we have to really address that issue. It's not sustainable. I said if this goes on, there will be a fiscal collapse.
According to Jokno, Defense Secretary Carlito Galvez and Interior Secretary Benher Abalos agree with the government's proposal. The pension system covers those in the armed forces of the Philippines, the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology, the Bureau of Fire Protection, the Philippine National Police, the Philippine Public Safety College, the Philippine Coast Guard, and the Bureau of Corrections. Currently, the military uniformed personnel pension system is funded by the national government and there is no contribution from the retirees. Nearly all Filipinos agree with optional use of face masks despite the continuing threat of COVID-19 to public health, but most will still wear them outside. A nationwide social weather station survey shows 91% or 9 out of 10 adult Filipinos approve the government's rule on the optional use of face masks. According to the SWS poll, 64% say they strongly approve of the directive and 27% say they somewhat approve. 3% say they somewhat disapprove as 1% say they strongly disapprove of the order. Meanwhile, 4% say they were undecided on the matter. More than half of the respondents likewise say they still prefer using face masks when out of their residences, with 54% saying they always wear face masks, 22% wear face masks most of the time, 15% sometimes, 8% rarely, and 1% say they never wear face masks. On October 28, 2022, President Bongbong Marcos issued Executive Order Number 7, which allows the voluntary use of face masks indoors and outdoors. The Philippine National Railways announces that it would suspend its operations on Holy Week from April 6 to 9 to give way for regular maintenance. In a statement, PNR says it scheduled its annual maintenance on Holy Week so that the suspension of operations would not affect its passengers. Regular operations will resume on April 10. Meanwhile, regular operations will remain from April 1 until April 5, with PNR deploying additional personnel to ensure the safe and smooth flow of its operations, especially as the observance of Holy Week draws nearer. President Bongbong Marcos commits to continue the former administration's projects as he greets former President Rodrigo Duterte on his birthday. In a video, President Marcos greets his predecessor as former President Duterte celebrates his 78th birthday on Tuesday.
What a pleasure it is for me to wish happy birthday to ating predecessor, PRRD. Happy birthday to you, Mr. President. Ngayon, naintindihan ko na kung bakit kung minsan nung presidente ko napapamura ka. Now I know why.
Marcos says he vows to continue the good work of the previous administration.
Huwag niyong inaalala, lahat ng magandang sinimulaan ninyo, we will continue to work on it. We will continue to make sure that those projects that you started will be successful. And I'm glad that I am able to continue the good work that you started.
Alamin naman natin ang mainit na balita sa mundo ng showbiz kasama si Irvin Santiago ng Bandera. Irvin?
Hi Neil at sa lahat ng mga kabandera natin all over the universe. Ito na nga ang latest Bandera Chika. Diretsahang inamin ng veteran TV host actor na si Anjo Iliana na totoong nagmakaawa siya sa mga bossing ng Viva Entertainment para bigyan siya ng trabaho. Kahit daw anong role ang ibigay sa kanya ay tatanggapin niya at handa siyang gawin ang lahat para mabigyan ng hustisya ang karakter na ipagkakatiwala sa kanya. Ayon kay Anjo, matagal-tagal na rin daw siyang nakatenga at walang ginagawang proyekto kaya kinapala na raw niya ang kanyang muka at nakiusap sa may-ari ng Viva na si Boss Vic Del Rosario na bigyan siya ng work. Hindi naman daw siya nabigo sa pagmamakaawa niya dahil agad siyang binigyan ng role sa latest rom-com at family TV series na Team A, Happy Fam, Happy Life na napapanood ngayon sa TV5 kasama sina Yayo Aguila, Gerald Napoles at Kim Molina.
Hindi in-offer. I beg. Nakiusap ako, nagmakaawa ako kasi 1 year ako nakapirma na sa Viva. Pandemic, last year wala akong work, nagmakaawa na ako. Kahit mga tatay, sabi ko, ayun, ngayon, nabigyan ako. So, hiningi ko to sa kanila na bigyan ako ng trabaho.
Hindi ka off-road ba ito ng Viva or TV5?
Viva and TV5.
Okay, so kaya
Anjo, hindi ka rin yung tanggap mo na talaga na pang-tatay road ka na, pang-lolo road ka na, wala kang na...
Tanggap ko kasi dalawa na yung graduate ko ng college, nagtatrabaho na. Alangan naman magpanggap ako sa mga anak bagay.
At yan ang Bandera Chika natin today. Thanks Neil!
Maraming salamat, Irvin. And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Catch Inquirer Today live weekdays at 6 p.m. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.